The Asura. Before Asura meant demon, it meant something the gods themselves wanted to be called. In the oldest verses of the Vedic text, the Asuras are any spiritual, divine beings, including those with good or bad intentions and constructive or destructive inclinations. In later verses, the word transforms. Asuras become evil spirits, demons, and opponents of the gods. In the Rigveda, Indra is described as Asura 9 times. Agni has 12 Asura descriptions. Varuna has 10. Mitra has 8. Rudra has 6. One verse describes the solar deity Savitur as an Asura who is a kind leader. The transformation from divine title to demonic category happened across roughly 500 years of Vedic composition, from the oldest hymns around 1500 BCE to the Atharva Veda around 1000 BCE. No single moment of reversal, no divine council that voted on it. A slow, gradual process of semantic drift that scholars can observe but cannot fully explain. The philosopher Ananda Kumaraswamy suggested that Devas and Asuras can be best understood as angels and titans of Greek mythology, both powerful but with different orientations. He wrote, "The titan is potentially an angel, the angel still by nature a titan." In Hinduism, the line between the two is not fixed by nature but by choice. I find that framing more honest than most Western demonologies. Not born evil, not condemned by origin, powerful, and choosing continuously which direction to deploy that power. The Asura is not a category of being, it is a description of a choice made at scale. Prahlada. His father was one of the most powerful demons in Hindu mythology. His father also tried to kill him at least 7 times. Prahlada was born into the Asura lineage as the son of Hiranyakashipu, a demon king who, empowered by a boon from Brahma making him virtually invincible, demanded that everyone worship him as a god. His own son refused. Prahlada was a devoted worshipper of Vishnu from before his birth, having absorbed teachings from the sage Narada while still in the womb. Hiranyakashipu tried to kill Prahlada many times. He asked his sister Holika, who possessed immunity to fire, to hold Prahlada in flames. Prahlada emerged unharmed. Holika died. Her boon failed because she had used it for harm rather than protection. Hiranyakashipu was eventually killed by Narasimha, the man-lion avatar of Vishnu, who appeared at dusk on a threshold in a form that satisfied none of the conditions of Hiranyakashipu's invincibility boon. Not man, not beast, not inside or outside, not day or night. The story of Prahlada is the story of a child who worshipped his father's enemy while living inside his father's palace, who survived every attempt to destroy him by the king who had conquered the universe, who is remembered across Hindu tradition not as a demon, but as one of the greatest devotees who ever lived. Born into the lineage of demons, considered among the holiest figures in the tradition, the lineage did not determine the outcome. That is the specific theological point the story is making. Mahabali. Every year in Kerala, millions of people celebrate the return of a demon king. Mahabali, the great Asura king, grandson of Prahlada, ruled a kingdom so just and so prosperous that it disturbed the gods. His subjects were happy. There was no poverty, no illness, no discrimination. Under Mahabali, the 3 worlds were as close to paradise as any era in Hindu mythology records. The gods, alarmed by his power, appealed to Vishnu. Vishnu took the form of Vamana, a dwarf Brahmin, and approached Mahabali during a great sacrifice. He asked for 3 footsteps of land. Mahabali agreed immediately without hesitation. Vamana then grew to cosmic size. His first step covered the earth, his second covered the heavens. For the third, there was nowhere left but Mahabali's own head. The king offered it. Vishnu pressed him gently into the nether world, but granted him a boon. he could return to visit his kingdom once a year. That annual return is the festival of Onam, celebrated by Malayalis across Kerala and around the world. The demon king is mourned and welcomed simultaneously. His portrait carried in processions, his generosity invoked in prayers. The theological problem the Mahabali story presents has never been cleanly resolved. Vishnu defeated a righteous king at the request of gods who were threatened by his goodness, not his evil. There is a version of this story that is about the necessity of cosmic order, and there is a version where the gods are simply afraid of someone better than them. Kerala has been celebrating the second version for a very long time. Ravana. He had 10 heads, each representing a different domain of knowledge, 4 Vedas, 6 schools of philosophy. A master of each, accumulated through decades of extreme ascetic practice so intense that Brahma himself granted him near invincibility. He was a composer of hymns to Shiva, a ruler of Lanka, a city described as built of gold, by almost every measure recognized in Vedic culture as a mark of achievement. Ravana had achieved. He also kidnapped Sita, the wife of Rama. He refused every opportunity to release her. He triggered a war that destroyed Lanka and killed most of his family. His fatal flaw was not ignorance or malice. It was hubris in its precise technical form. He had specifically not requested protection from humans, considering them beneath him, not anticipating that Rama would be the human avatar of Vishnu. He had planned for every threat worth taking seriously. He had simply miscategorized the one that killed him. Ravana is genuinely venerated in parts of India and Sri Lanka. He has temples, he has devotees. In several regional traditions, particularly in Sri Lanka and parts of Tamil Nadu, he is considered a tragic hero, a figure of extraordinary accomplishment, brought low not by weakness, but by the specific blindness that greatness sometimes generates. His effigy burns every year at Dussehra across India in front of millions of people who will also, in some of those same communities, acknowledge that he was among the most learned beings who ever lived. He is the only demon on this list who burns every year in front of people who also keep his temples. Mahishasura. He was half buffalo, half demon, and he had defeated every god in the universe. Mahishasura, Mahisha meaning buffalo, Asura meaning demon, had obtained a boon from Brahma that no man or god could kill him. He had earned this boon through years of rigorous penance. He used it to conquer the heavens. The gods, expelled from their own realm, went to Brahma and Vishnu for help. The solution was Durga, a goddess assembled from the combined divine energy of all the gods, a being created specifically and solely to do what none of them could. The Devi Mahatmya, a text of the Markandeya Purana dated approximately to the 5th through 7th century CE, records the battle in considerable detail. Durga rides a lion. The fight lasts days. Mahishasura shapeshifts, becoming a lion, then an elephant, then returning to his buffalo form, before Durga finally defeats him. His defeat is celebrated annually at Durga Puja and Vijayadashami, some of the largest festivals in India. Kolkata's Durga Puja has been recognized as an intangible cultural heritage of humanity by UNESCO. What is theologically interesting about Mahishasura is the mechanism by which he became so dangerous: sustained, sincere ascetic practice. He did not cheat, he did not steal power. He earned his boon through the same discipline the tradition teaches as a path to the divine. The boon worked precisely as promised. The tradition needed a goddess to resolve the problem he created, not because he was uniquely evil, but because he had used the system exactly as designed, and the system had no other answer. Rakshasa. The Rakshasa is a humanoid being in Hindu mythology, also called man-eater in Sanskrit, Nri Chakshas, Kravyads. Their literary origins can be traced through hymn 87 of the 10th mandala of the Rigveda. According to one origin story, they were created from the breath of Brahma while he slept. As soon as they were created, they were so filled with bloodlust that they started eating Brahma himself. Brahma shouted, Rakshama, Sanskrit for protect me, and Vishnu came to his aid, banishing them to earth. The Rakshasas are named after Brahma's cry for help. That origin story is either darkly comic or theologically precise, depending on how you read it. A being brought into existence by the creative breath of the universe, and its first act is to attack the universe's creator. Not a choice made after reflection, an impulse present from the first moment of existence, but the category is not uniform. In the Ramayana, Vibhishana, Ravana's own brother, recognizes the injustice of Sita's abduction, defects to Rama's side, and after the war is crowned king of Lanka. His righteousness is explicitly praised. Among the Rakshasas, the tradition built a being of such clarity that it chose against its own king, its own family, and its own civilization, because it could see that they were wrong. The Rakshasa taxonomy contains Ravana, who burns every year, and Vibhishana, who is venerated as a righteous king, both from the same category, both from the same family. The tradition did not find this contradictory. It found it accurate. Vetala. It lives in cremation grounds. It possesses corpses. It hangs upside down from trees. The Vetala is one of the stranger beings in Hindu demonology. Not aligned with the Asura tradition, not clearly a Rakshasa, occupying a category of its own. It haunts charnel grounds, possesses and leaves dead bodies at will, and is described in Sanskrit texts as a knowledgeable entity capable of fortune-telling. Its most famous appearance is in the Baital Pachisi, 25 tales from approximately the 11th century, in which the legendary king Vikramaditya is tasked with capturing a Vetala hanging from a tree in a cremation ground. Every time he captures it and carries it toward his destination, the Vetala tells him a story. The story ends with a riddle. If the king answers, because he cannot stay silent when he knows the answer, the Vetala immediately flies back to its tree. The Vetala has correctly identified the specific weakness of the wisest king of his age, the inability to pretend ignorance when he possesses knowledge. It built an escape mechanism around one man's virtue. The king carries a creature that understands him better than he understands himself, toward a destination he never quite reaches. The Vetala is neither good nor evil in any simple sense. It is knowledge, sitting in the dark, in a dead body, waiting to see if wisdom can be separated from compulsion. In that sense, it is one of the most honest demons ever built. Pishacha. They are the lowest category of demon in the Hindu system, and the most specifically medical. Pishachas are flesh-eating demons in Hindu, Buddhist, and Jain traditions, linked to disease, madness, and the specific illnesses that arrive without clear cause. They are said to cause physical and mental disorders, and Ayurvedic texts describe specific categories of illness attributed to Pishacha possession, including fevers, epilepsy, and states of consciousness that resemble what modern medicine might recognize as psychotic episodes. They haunt cemeteries and cremation grounds like the Vetala, but without the Vetala's unsettling intelligence. The Pishacha is hunger without strategy, the raw, destructive principle of consumption operating below the level of intention. Vedic and Puranic texts prescribe specific rituals for Pishacha-related illness. Sanskrit medical texts from the classical period treat possession as both a spiritual and a physical diagnosis, which is, depending on your framework, either a failure to distinguish between religion and medicine or a sophisticated refusal to draw a line that may not exist. The Pishacha is the demon that explains what happens when someone changes in ways that have no name, the ancient equivalent of a medical category still being assembled. 8 beings from Hindu mythology's vast demonological tradition. The Asura that began as a title for gods and became a name for their enemies. The transformation still unexplained after 2 centuries of scholarship. Prahlada, the Demon King's son who worshipped the Demon King's enemy and is remembered as one of the holiest figures in the tradition, Mahabali, the righteous Asura king who was defeated by a god acting on behalf of other gods threatened by his goodness, and who Kerala mourns and celebrates every year. Ravana, who burns annually and has temples simultaneously. Mahishasura, who earned his power through sincere discipline and required a goddess assemble from all divine energy combined to defeat. The Rakshasa family, which contains both the figure who burns annually and the figure who chose righteousness against his own civilization. The Vetala, which is knowledge inhabiting a dead body, running an escape from a king it understands better than he understands himself. The Pishacha, which is illness-given appetite. Hindu mythology built a demonic tradition with more moral range than almost any other in the ancient world, not because it was confused about what evil was, but because it understood something the simpler traditions didn't quite capture. That the same power that creates can destroy. That the same discipline that produces a saint can produce a tyrant. That being born into a certain lineage tells you almost nothing about where you'll end up. And that a being can be simultaneously defeated, mourned, venerated, and burned every year in front of millions of people. And all of those responses can be correct simultaneously. The Hindu demons are not simply evil. They are the shape that power takes when the tradition is honest about how complicated power actually is.